And one of the ways you stay in shape is something you have in common with Jarrett,
Can we
Brazilian
talk about
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
Can we
Talk about it.
BJJ?
Yes,
Like
yes.
how have you? What belt are you? Like how long have you studied? Where did you study?
Yeah.
Like I'm interested.
So
are you a Carlos Gracie Jr.
started
guy? Or
in
what is it?
2012.
Okay.
Can you back up a hair? 2 years ago, a lot of us tuned in and paid attention when your heart issues happened. Can you unpack how that affected you theologically? Did you have more trust in God? What happened there?
Yeah, those were some interesting times, and from a theological perspective, it wasn't like, my theology changed. It was more like it was confirmed, right? And we were encouraged because of what we had, constantly been reminding ourselves of, and what I've been constantly teaching, both publicly and in my home. It was comforting to not have to change my theology during that time.
Yeah.
It was comforting to not have to try to go and find something, that was suitable for the occasion. And so it was more of a time of confirmation. I tell you what, Paul's words, for me to live as Christ, to die as gain. And that whole section there where he's dealing with the benefits of staying and the benefits of going, and, being a father with children still in the house and grandkids coming and things of that nature. I mean, there was a lot of that thinking. But the Lord was kind, man. Mm-hmm. I've often told people the story of, my wife having a conversation with someone, there, I'm in the hotel room, and people try to be encouraging, and a lot of people were saying, no, he's going to make it, the Lord's using him, the Lord's not done with him, all the things that he's doing, yada, yada, yada. And I just remember my wife in a conversation saying, no, the Lord's no man's debtor, and he doesn't need Voddie, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want him to go, but if the Lord doesn't need him, and I was like, good for you.
Wow.
Good for you. But
that's tough.
Yeah.
But that's a tough place to come to.
Yeah.
And so when you're saying your theology was solid, how exactly do you mean? Like in terms of your health, or in terms of God's providence, or his sovereignty?
In terms of God's providence.
Yeah.
In terms of his sovereignty.
Yeah.
Just, in terms of all of those things. And it was amazing. We got to see God's just kind providences in that whole process, and just in things that happened when and how they needed to happen for me to get the care that I needed.
Wow.
And one of the ways you stay in shape is something you have in common with Jarrett, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
Talk about it.
BJJ,
yes.
How have you, what belt are you? Like how long have you studied? Where did you study? Like I'm interested.
So
are you a Carlos Gracie Jr. guy?
Or in 2012.
Okay, great.
And it was just kind of, again, a providential thing. My oldest son, the last 4.5 years of his education, we homeschool.
Yeah.
He traveled with me full time.
Cool.
And then, when he was done, he was off doing a bunch of different things, and we just missed each other, And so he started looking into different martial arts stuff, and, we talked about that from a theological perspective.
Yeah.
And so we found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as you know, doesn't have the theological background, right? Because of the way it originated and where it came from, it doesn't have a theological background.
Yeah, there's no like spiritual component. No. Yeah, there's no meditation, no Eastern mysticism, right? Yeah.
And your black belts are called professor.
Yep.
Not master or sensei, or they're called professor. Yeah. And so, we started doing that, and I was like a duck in water.
It's
man.
the best, right?
It was the best, and it was the most challenging thing that I had ever done in my life. Uh-huh. It was amazing how, being a big, strong guy, I'm the biggest, strongest guy in there, but I can't handle any of these guys who've been here for a while, right?
Yeah.
Which just confirmed everything that I needed to know about it. And so I reached blue belt, which, again, for people who don't know about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
that's hard.
It takes a couple of years to get your blue belt,
uh-huh.
And then after that, we moved to Lusaka, and there's nowhere to train.
There's no BJJ there.
So I was there for a few years and just would train here, there, the other. So I'm a blue belt forever. And then we started the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Zambia.
Wow.
And so,
do you have professors there? Are you teaching?
I was it.
Very
so
cool.
my professor in Houston, Travis Took, he got his black belt under Carlos Gracie Jr.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that is my lineage. Interestingly enough, that you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And so, he kind of, mentored me from afar, and, we became kind of a satellite and used their curriculum and all that. And so I earned my purple belt,
Okay.
And then the world ended.
Yes.
COVID hit.
Right.
And then my heart issues hit. So I haven't been able to. I've been on the mats a couple of times, since then, but we lost our building.
Shoot.
And, all of that. So, yeah, again, I've been doing it for a decade, but I'm still purple because out of that decade, probably half of it, I haven't been, training.
But that's not uncommon. Like,
No.
I used to think a lot of people have to take time off. They go through things, you get little injuries here and there.
The average is something like 10 years to get a black belt.
10 to 12.
Yeah,
like
10 to
I was
12
like,
years
it's
is the
so
average.
crazy.
Yeah.
The guy that first started teaching me got his black belt under Royce Gracie.
Yeah.
I got a question for both of you because I have no BJJ background.
You want us to roll right now?
I want you to roll. No, how have you avoided cauliflower ear? You've both got intact ears, and I thought that was the thing with BJJ. They give you your black belt, and then they box your ears for a while.
It's hereditary, I think.
Is it?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but there are some guys who.
I think my ears have grown since.
Yeah.
They're like getting bigger.
Just keep people off your head, man. Just keep people off your head. And a lot of those tend to be guys who have wrestling backgrounds.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of those guys tend to have more wrestling backgrounds and do more no-gi stuff. Because the gi that they wear.
Got it.
And
the bathrobe.
Yeah, the bathrobe.
That you roll around with other men.
Yes, exactly.
So instead of getting grabbed on the gi, they grab you by the ear?
It's a very manly sport.
It is an incredibly manly sport. Now, I've talked about this often. Men, especially in this day where masculinity is marginalized, men look for things that are masculine. And ironically, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is incredibly masculine, but not for the reason people think. For one thing, there is this sense of discipleship and mentoring. That's the only way you advance, right? Is you have to humble yourself.
Yes, you
right?
do.
You have to humble yourself, which is something that men need.
Yeah.
They, the other thing is that there's technical mastery, right? And men are, they're all about, technical mastery. The other thing is, it is the highest expression of gentleness. It's referred to as the gentle art, right? In most martial arts, you use maximum force to subdue your opponent. You hit him as hard as you can, you kick him as hard as you can. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is designed around the idea of using the minimum amount of force necessary to subdue an opponent.
Yeah.
Right? You use the least amount of energy and the least amount of effort necessary to subdue an opponent. And it is the epitome of strength and power under control.
Yeah.
And so you can have people of various sizes and, all this kind of stuff who are sparring with one another. And men are attracted to that. And not to mention the fact that it's the toughest workout.
It is really hard.
Really
I'm drenched. I'm drenched in sweat. So
absolutely.
I have 4 boys. We're all doing it.
Yeah.
So me and my 4 boys, we're all doing it. And what I always teach them, you have to learn how to lose well.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that you can learn doing any kind of sport. But I think in particular for jiu-jitsu, it's a great discipleship tool if you're talking about learning how to control your emotions.
Learn about getting tapped out.
Yeah, learn about getting tapped out, giving up, not having your pride kind of rise up. And all those things, that's really good for your spirit. And it's good for your walk with Christ, like I find, because it's like you have to learn how to submit to Christ too.
Yes. The other thing for me, when you're in pastoral ministry, within the first few years, you don't have any lost friends anymore. Right? You just don't. Everybody that you're around is at the church.
Yeah.
Right? Your life is at the church and at home. You know, you're not a part of any social groups or organizations or any of that stuff. Everybody that you know is a Christian, you know, unless some, you know, person comes to the church or whatever. But when I started training and then competing in BJJ, I had legitimate friendships.
Yeah.
Intimate friendships.
Yes.
Because that physical proximity, man.
Yeah.
You know, all your guards are down, all the, you know. And I had friends who were lost. And it was incredible, you know, to be able to be involved in that kind of ministry again. And to have those kinds of relationships again. And it really affected the way that even I preached, because I'm thinking about these people, you know, who I'm with multiple times a week, and who don't believe this stuff and who don't just accept this stuff. And so